everyone, it's Tim from timgagnon.com, and I'm back with part 2 of painting apple blossoms in Adventures in Painting. In part 1, what we did is we tried to figure out how to draw apple blossoms, so we got a good idea of the shape of the blossom closed, the leaves, the branches, and all of that. Now what we want to do is figure out our color scheme. So what I'm going to do is take you through mixing a couple different colors to figure out what color scheme we're going to use for the painting. So this week what we're doing is we're looking at the apple blossoms, going to look at the leaves and the blossoms themselves and figure out the colors for the leaves and the shadows, leaves and the highlights, the blossoms when they're closed, when they're open, all of that. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to have you zoom in. I'm going to set up a table here, put out the palette, my sketchbook. I've got a couple sketches already started, and what we're going to do is figure out some colors for painting apple blossoms. So let's zoom in and figure out those colors. Okay, for my colors, what I'm going to do is limit my palette and just try to make sure I can find the color out of these colors. I've got cobalt blue, ultramarine blue, cad yellow light, cad yellow medium, sap green, hooker's green, and viridian green. First thing I want to do is I'm going to try to make some greens with my blues and yellows. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little cobalt blue, and we're looking for our leaf color here. I'm going to take a little cad yellow light. So what I'm going to do is make this little gradient of color. You can see here I go from blue into yellow. We'll go more yellow at the end. Okay, so this is my cad yellow light. Okay, with the cobalt blue, now we'll try some cad yellow medium. Again, doing the same type of gradient. You can see now that this is much more earthy looking. Okay, so you can see this is much more kind of a pale green, and this is much more of a vibrant, earthy green. So let's figure out now what our greens would look like with ultramarine blue. We'll take ultramarine blue, we'll put it down here. We'll take some of that cad yellow light. Again, making a little gradient going across. What I'm going to do is let this stuff dry so I can see what color, because acrylics seem to dry darker. So we're going to see what it looks like as it gets drier. Okay, again, you can kind of see the gradient here. It's again, the cad yellow light makes a much more pale green. Okay, and then down here we'll go with the cad yellow medium. Again, mixing into a gradient so I can see all the shifts in color. Okay, so we've got a good variety of colors here already, but we're not sure if those are our leaf color yet. Next, what I want to do is take a few common green colors. We'll start with sap green. We're just going to take some sap green, add a little white to it. Okay, then on each side of this sap green, I'm going to take a little of the cad yellow light. then a little cad yellow medium, just to see how I can alter this green color. Okay, next I'm going to do the same with Hooker's green. We'll take some Hooker's green, add a little white to it, much more of a vibrant green here. Then we'll take a little cad yellow light, mix a little bit on this side, clean off my brush, then take some cad yellow medium, okay, so we've got a good variety here. You can see what this green here, Hooker's green, is kind of a grayish green, but as you add yellow it makes it much more vibrant. Okay, now I'm going to take some Viridian green, add a little titanium white. This is a much more bluish green. Again, I'm going to add some cad yellow light to one side. And I'll take some cad yellow medium on the other side. Okay, so I've taken my cobalt blue, made a gradient of green with my cad yellow light, with my cad yellow medium. I have two very different greens there, you can see, shifting from blue all the way to yellow, yellow-green. Then I took my ultramarine blue, same thing with the two. You can see this is a much more warm green. This is a cooler green. So I can already start to tell that my cad yellow light will be a better, cooler color for my greens. And my yellow medium is going to be a much more vibrant, warmer green. Then I took sap green, Hooker's green, and Viridian green, and just made a couple different mixtures over here as well. And what I'm going to do is let this dry and see what the colors look like. And then I'm going to go on and paint in a little bit of my sketch so I can match up my color, and then we can make small adjustments from there. Okay, I've brought my picture up of my apple blossoms. I've got my colors that are pretty dry here, and what I want to do is compare my colors in these leaves to what I've got going over here. There's a couple different ways I could go. What's looking pretty accurate right now is some of the sap green and the cad yellow light right here. That makes a nice highlight color up here on these leaves. Then it also looks like maybe a little bit of the ultramarine blue and cad yellow medium is about the color of the leaf in the darker areas. I'm just going to take a brush. I've got a little basic sketch here, and I'll take some of my ultramarine blue and cad yellow, and I'll just paint in this leaf here. And that's a little too bluish, so let's try the sap green, cad yellow light. Okay, that's looking like a little bit better of a color. What we might have to do is add a little ultramarine blue to the sap green. That will tone it down just a little bit. We'll try it over here on this. And that's a really nice color right there. Okay, so for my darkest color, I'm going to go between sap green and cad yellow light, and then maybe add a little ultramarine blue to that. I'm going to take my ultramarine blue cad yellow, we're going to make a brighter color now. And I'm going to still tone it down just a little bit with sap green. And for the highlight areas, that's looking pretty good for color as well. That we're using a little bit of ultramarine blue, cad medium, cad yellow medium, and a little bit of sap green. And obviously we can add some white here and there if we ever need to lighten up the color a little bit more. Okay, so those are the three colors I'm going to play around with, and that's the color I'll use for most of my leaves. Okay, so obviously you're going to want to, when we do the actual painting, we'll do a lot more blending and details and things like that, but we're trying to work in some accurate colors that we'll be able to alter a little bit. So based on this, I'm going to take some sap green, ultramarine blue, cad yellow light, and cad yellow medium, and white, and that's going to be my palette for my leaves because those are pretty close. I can do a lot of different mixtures with those four colors and create some good accurate leaf color. So what I want to do now is determine the color of the blossoms. So what you can do is save this green palette sheet. If you did it on paper, you can save the paper and just write down what your color mixtures were. But I'm just going to save this sheet for future reference. And I'll go to a new sheet for my blossom colors. Okay, for my apple blossom, since I used ultramarine blue in the green mix, I'm going to keep using that for the white mix just to kind of keep a cohesive color scheme throughout the painting. What I'm going to do is take a little ultramarine blue and some white. I'm going to keep going whiter and whiter. Okay, so I'm going to be using some of this in through here for some of the shadow areas, very sparingly. What I want to do is take the same scheme here and add just a little bit of alizarin crimson to make the ultramarine blue a little bit more purple. And for a lot of my shadow color, I'm going to use this slightly purplish color in through the apple blossom. So you can see by adding just a little bit of alizarin crimson to that ultramarine blue, we've made this, just a tiny bit of that, just made this a little bit more of a purplish, almost like a gray, and that will work as a really nice color for my shadow colors in my white flower blossoms. Okay, so the other color that's in there is mostly kind of a pinkish color, so I'm going to just take ultramarine blue again and alizarin crimson and just add a little white, and that right there looks like a pretty good color for my apple blossoms. And we're going to use a variety of values obviously with all of this stuff, but for my brightest areas on my flower blossoms, I'm going to use this mostly white and ultramarine blue. Shadow colors, I'm going to use some of this ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, and then some of those pink colors we'll use ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, and white, and make a more purplish pink color. And we'll take some of this pink color here that we've got going. And then we'll mix in some of this purplish color. Okay, so every once in a while maybe go a little bit more alizarin to make it a little more pink. Okay, and then when we go into the brighter areas over here, we're taking that, normally I'd wash my brush off, but we're just doing this quick here, just ultramarine blue and white, and adding in these little flecks of light color into the apple blossom. Okay, for an open flower like this here, what we're going to do is take mostly white and ultramarine blue, so white and ultramarine blue, and you're basically just painting in okay, so it's almost got this bluish hue to it, and then for highlights we're just going to take much more white. for the areas that are in the light. Okay, and the only thing we may do in the painting is maybe adjust the shadows a little bit more into the gray area. And to do that, we'll probably just add in a neutral color like raw umber, just a little tiny touch of it, just to muddy up our blue-gray a little bit. So for our flowers, the colors we're using are ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, and white. And we're making a blue and white, a purple, which is ultramarine blue and alizarin crimson, adding white to it, and that's going to be a good shadow color. And then we're going to add in some alizarin crimson to make some of these pink colors that are throughout the painting. And what we'll do is we'll vary that a lot more as we get into the paint. So to recap, what I did is I just created a couple different sketches. I took a bunch of different colors. I knew I'm going to be creating green, so I took a bunch of blues and yellows, mixed those together, matched it up with my image, and found the green that was most accurate. And then I can work from there by adding in, some earth tones, maybe mix a little bit more on the blue side, more on the yellow side. But you can get a lot of different colors based on that major color that you found. So for this one, it was sap green, ultramarine blue, cad yellow light, cad yellow medium, and then white to change the value. But those four major colors create the most accurate green, and we can work from there. For the flower blossoms, we used alizarin crimson. I used ultramarine blue because that's the one I used in the leaves, and that helps make the whole painting cohesive. You can add in some other blues too, here and there, little flecks of color. That will make your painting a little bit more dynamic. But those three colors, alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue, and titanium white, are going to make the majority of color I use in the apple blossoms. That one's a little more simple than the greens. Greens are a little bit harder to mix. If you're painting something you've never painted before and you're trying to figure out colors, the best thing to do is just figure out a major color. Let's say it's orange. You take your reds and your yellows, you mix an orange, and then you alter them here and there a little bit until you find a color that matches what you're painting, or closely matches, and then you can alter it from there. So it's just a matter of trial and error. Not every time you look at something you're going to know right off what color mixtures it is. Sometimes you have to get out the paints, make a little color chart, and then go from there. So that's step 2 in the process of adventures in painting. We've got our sketch, we've got our color mixtures. Now it's just a matter of doing the painting. So I hope you join in with me in part 3 where I do the painting. Please make sure you subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on any of the videos. If you're interested in online painting lessons, in-person workshops, or original artwork, please visit my website, www.timgagnon.com. I have a large variety of online lessons dealing with acrylic and oil. And as always, please feel free to share with your friends. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you again soon.